Celine, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I love everything to do with self-love because our world doesn't have enough of it. That's for sure. We give and give and give, and then we forget to spend time alone and learn how to love ourselves as well.
I know, that's what surprises me the most, actually. Sometimes I'll do a session with a client that seems like it's completely unrelated to self-love, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, whatever, I can work on it anyway, it doesn't matter." And then we all end up at this lack of self-worth or trauma or like, "I'm not enough," or "I can't do this," or "I'm not strong enough for this," and I'm like, "Self-love, that's the foundation of everything."
Apparently, and I'm learning that as I was doing research for this podcast, I was like, okay, okay. Of course, I think a lot of it does come back to self-worth and thinking I don't deserve something, or I don't like, I'm never going to attract something. And it's like, oh my goodness, you change your mindset around that a little bit. I think people would be scared of how much power they really do have.
Absolutely. I think that we often, look for solutions outside of ourselves as well. Like if you have a look at your relationship with your partner, in your marriage, for example, you'll say, "Oh, I'll feel better once my husband picks up the towel from the floor," And actually, what if, well, that's part of the the solution, right? But what if you also looked at the reason why that's hurting something inside of you? "Oh, I feel like he doesn't care, blah, blah, blah." And that brings up a whole story, right? That has nothing to do with your partner whatsoever. It's all to do with you and your stuff and the stuff that you have got to heal. So yeah, self-love. Oops, my headphones went crazy there. But yeah, self-love is the answer to everything, I feel.
We know a big topic of blame on everyone else and never looking internally. That goes hand in hand with seeking validation to remind ourselves that we have that we're loved and worthy. And I don't want to use the word issue, but I have a big need of needing reassurance and validation and words of affirmation. But really it's reassurance and affirmation and compliments. And it's only lately where I'm really noticing, like, holy crap, I really need that. But worst case scenario, if I don't get it, what does that mean? And how do I find that myself and create it myself? Because if I'm relying on someone else to fulfill all of those validations, that's a lot of power that I'm giving away. And then
Yeah, and it's something that you constantly need from somebody else as well, right? Like if you don't get it, like, what is that going to bring up inside of you? And yeah, I feel like for me, like self-love is all about learning that I can be more independent, that I can rely less on others to make me feel good about myself. So self-love in a way is not so much about taking time for myself, although that's a big part of self-love, but it's also about learning that I am strong within myself. I don't need constant reassurance from my partner. I can just tell myself that I look good anyway, and I can feel good about myself. And if I don't feel good, I know that I have the power to change this within myself straight away. I don't have to wait.
this sounds great. I'm still got to
It
practice.
does, doesn't it? It sounds a bit like a miracle, or something like it's a bit like, oh yeah, I see what she means, but it's not really true for me. Or maybe, she hasn't suffered like I had suffered, or, she hasn't been traumatized like I've been traumatized. And I'm like, yeah, sure, perhaps you have suffered or you have been traumatized or abused way more than I have. And that's fine. But you still have the choice of feeling good inside of yourself right now. No excuse. There's no time to lose.
That leads me to my absolute first question. If you're already always questioning, like, oh, well, you haven't been through it the same amount as me, I know you have. And I'm sure you don't get into it with your clients, your story as much because they're paying for you to coach them. But my question to you is, when you look back in kind of all of the changes and mishaps and triumphs in your life, what's one time in your life where you really have went through what I like to call an ebb of life?
Mm. Yeah, where to choose? What to choose from? Like it's
You
like
did
a like
a list. So
it's
what
like, oh, where
about?
do I start? I think the story that I want to tell you the most, I think, is that when I was in my early 20s, I had a lot of acne. And like it doesn't sound like, oh, I have been raped or whatever, but it sounds like it's like, oh yeah, like it's not really that big of a story. But like imagine what it feels like to have acne all over your face, pimples showing up every single morning, every single day, and having scars and, things that are healing, that are popping out and that are really gross. And that's all over your face every day, every single day. And no matter how much makeup you put on, it's like, it's still very visible. You can still see the hill
And
and the
it's there.
scars and
You got
everything. Yeah,
lost.
it's right there. It's right there for everybody to have a look at. And I couldn't have a mask at the time, right? My face was
You know,
everything
anyone with
visible.
skin issues these days are like, yeah, let's keep masked up.
That's right. Yeah, no need to put makeup on anymore. But yeah, that was my biggest challenge. I think, like, it wasn't something I didn't have an immediate fix for it, is what I wanted to say. And so I tried to understand what was wrong with my body or what was not working properly. And I did the online courses thing, and I spent hours on YouTube, and I tried to understand, and I bought a lot of supplements, and I was on a student budget at the time, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And often I felt like I was not making any progress. And, I think the hardest part about it was not so much that my body was sick, but that people were looking at me on the streets. And, strangers would come up to me and say, oh, you need to stop eating spicy food, or you need to put aloe vera on your skin, or you need to do this, you need to do that. And I felt like, wow, like this is, people can't see me anymore. They can see this pepperoni pizza face, but they can't see me anymore. And I felt so, deeply ashamed. Like, and then in the end, after like 2 or 3 years of intense exploration and research, I realized that the problem was me eating processed sugar. Like, still to this day, like yesterday, I had ice cream and I have a pimple on my forehead today. And at the time I was eating, processed sugar, chocolates, cakes, and so on all the time. And so everything was exploding. And so that's what got me started into this whole journey of self-love. And I realized that, when you feel good about yourself and when you feel that everything's working fine in your life, and, you feel good, you feel that, oh yeah, I love myself. I love my life. I feel beautiful. But what happens if your life is not going the way you want to? What happens if you have a divorce? What happens if you have a physical disease? What happens when you don't feel good about yourself? Can you still love yourself? What happens if you struggle with anxiety and depression? Can you still love yourself? So often we feel like, and I felt like that, once I heal my skin, then I will love myself. That's actually a decision that I made very consciously. Once I stop having this, then I will be happy. And well, I think there's probably a reason why that took so long for me to fix, because I had to find that ability to accept myself, even with the pepperoni pizza face.
There's
That
so
was not an easy lesson.
now, my first question to you is, how annoying is it when everyone and their mother seems to have a solution for you? And it's
It's
like,
so difficult, yeah. And because you're so desperate, you want to look into their solution and you want to follow that path, and then you realize, well, actually I did something that I knew wasn't right for me most of the time anyway. And I needed to go back inside of myself. So part of the journey was also to realize that this is about me. This is about me for one. This is about me healing my body and trying to understand my body. And yeah, fuck everyone else.
just like, I mean, I dealt with acne growing up. I still to this day a little bit. I get it really bad on my chest. I would rather it on my face. I still get it on my face too, but my chest is so annoying because it's like you can't wear any cute tops, like especially in the summer. Like, come on, I don't struggle with it as much as I used to, but I did a ton when I was in my teens. And then in my early 20s, when I got off birth control, basically I restarted that whole process again. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I could, like, what I'm wearing now, like a V-neck sweater, I wouldn't have been able to wear without putting a ton of concealer all over my chest. And it's like you said, you're caking on makeup on top of it, but you can still tell it's there. There's only so much you can cover up. And then it's like, well, say if you go out to a party or go dancing, it's like you start sweating and it's like, oh, I can't keep adding my face. And it's like you feel you feel that you can't even live properly anymore or enjoy yourself. And then to add on the whole layer of you feel like everyone's always looking at you. When all the self-consciousness that comes with that, it's horrible. And you talk about self-love, like it's hard enough to create self-love when I have a clear body and a clear face, let alone tons of skin issues.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I say, like when people come to me with their issues, I'm like, yeah, cool, let's work on them. And we can definitely do some really good work on that. But also, can you accept yourself right now? And so self love is not so much about dealing with your issues or taking time for yourself or spending time alone. Like those are things that are really all very useful and we need to do them in the end. But can you accept yourself anyway right now? And I think the only way to do it is to spend time with yourself and to spend time in your thoughts, with your thoughts, with your feelings, and I remember, when I was at the beginning of that journey, didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that I was learning to love myself. I was all very, all very fuzzy in my mind. And I remember that sometimes I would get really angry or hurt, but I couldn't pinpoint the reason why I was feeling that way. And so that's because I wasn't spending time with myself. I didn't want to be me. I wanted to be anybody else but me. I wanted to be somebody who was beautiful and had long hair and was confident and was good and had really great friends. And I didn't want to be me. I didn't want to be this awkward, embarrassing, shy Celine. I didn't want to be me. I didn't know where I had signed up for this stupid body. And so I had to learn to reconnect with all of those awkward feelings that I had. And so often we shut them down because we feel like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Oh, I'm manifesting more, self-doubt or shame or, self-hatred or whatever. I need to feel peace. I need to feel enlightenment. I need to feel balance. And by spending time, acknowledging these feelings that we have, then we understand, okay, why do I have this feeling? And then we can change it. And that, I think, is the key to self-love. And nobody wants to do this work. Nobody wants to spend time with their feelings of shame and hatred. But, what else can we do? Are you going to always be looking to try to feel peace and balance? Or are you going to actually realize that all of your feelings have a reason, right? So if that's the case, then it's okay to feel that shame. It's not going to destroy you. It's not going to consume you. It's going to allow you to move through something that you need to work through. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? It makes sense in my brain.
Sure. That's a woman thing, of us saying that, where everything we
I
say
know.
makes sense. And it's like, yes, it made sense if you said it. People will say it didn't make sense if it didn't make sense. But it's such
Looking for validation, right?
I, I do it a lot, and I read it the other day where it's like, we need to stop doing that. And I was like, we do, really do. And I'm like, I didn't realize it was almost like a confidence thing sometimes. But now when I notice, like, especially women saying that, I'm like, yes, it makes sense. Don't worry. But
Something else
anyways,
to have a look at.
uh, okay. So I want to ask you, how long did the acne happen?
Um, well, the thing is, is that I don't really remember when exactly it happened. I just remember that people started to make comments about my skin, and I'm like looking at myself in the mirror and like, oh, actually, yeah, that's not so good. Um, it probably went on for 5 or 6 years, when I
Wow.
was conscious of it. So it went on
Like,
for a very long
you're
time, and
beginning to
still,
your mid
yeah.
20s.
Yeah, absolutely. And I probably, had acne when I was a teenager, going through puberty and everything, but it didn't really seem like a problem at the time. Like, one or two pimples on the cheek, like it's not a big deal, right? Just gonna go away by itself. But yeah, it went on for 5 or 6 years. When I realized that it was a problem and I was actively doing something, obsessing over it.
It's interesting that you didn't realize it was a problem until people started telling you. So what does that say
No.
about you and everyone else? Why do
Oh,
they
it
care?
says that I don't realize that I have problems sometimes and I hide things about myself. So yeah, that's something that I do, and I still do it to this day. I don't realize when there's a problem. I have to wait to have an argument with somebody, or have to wait for somebody to tell me that there's a problem for me to fix it. And that doesn't happen with everything, but with the big things. And that's so true when we think about the big issues that we have in our lives, and it tells us about the subconscious mind. Like our mind, working to try and protect us. Like, okay, Celine, like you have this really good system of lying to yourself so that you don't feel bad about yourself, and you're going to continue lying to yourself because that's a system that works. And it takes, a stranger on the street telling you, oh, your skin doesn't look so good today, or you should buy this brand of makeup to realize, oh man, like this is something that I need to work on.
So when you started navigating how to, I guess, fix it, well, I guess my question is, did you even care to fix it? Or it wasn't until people were telling you should fix it? Did you even care?
I don't really remember that time very
Yeah.
clearly, to be honest. I think I shut off. I just, decided to forget most of it. But I think as soon as I realized that it was a problem, then it became the only thing that I could think of. I spent hours,
Yeah.
looking at myself in the mirror and popping the things and
Yeah.
trying to fix the things and
Mhm.
buying things and buying supplements and spending hours in pharmacy, looking for all of those miracle products and looking at YouTube videos of women who had fix their acne in 3 weeks,
Oh
or
yeah.
2 days or whatever, 3 months. And I think that's when I started to obsess over it, if that makes sense. And perhaps it did get worse once I started to acknowledge the problem. I can't really say for sure. But yeah, that's when I started to really hate myself, I think.
I mean, I feel you. There's things that I've never noticed about my appearance, and then someone, maybe even just like someone younger, like pointed it out to be mean, and that stuff sticks with you for the rest of your life. Thankfully,
Mhm.
with acne, you can cure it, but I don't know anything about your physical body that you can't really fix without plastic surgery. It's you always have it in the back of your mind, and it definitely affects self-esteem.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel really sorry for the young women who have, TikTok and Snapchat and all of those things. Like I have a 12-year-old niece, and she looks like she's 17 and 18, but she doesn't have that, mental that maturity
Scary.
about her. Yeah, and it's scary because she spends so much time on her phone and so much time, seeking validation and taking selfies and looking for the best angle and looking at her appearance. And I feel like, man, like it was so difficult, when I was in my teens. But how much worse is it now with social media and us, scrolling all day long through the feed and looking at photos of perfect people and wanting to be popular in that
Comparison
way.
all the
Ugh.
time. We're literally always comparing.
Mm,
Oh my goodness.
I know.
So as you started looking for cures, tell me all the things that you went through. I'm sure you went through many
Oh,
topical creams and supplements. Like, tell me all the money that you wasted.
I know. Well, I mean, my skin improved when I was 17 because I went on, what's it called in English? The pill, the birth
Yeah.
control pill, and it went away. And then I decided that I wanted to have a holistic health. And I knew that the pill was doing something to my body that I didn't like. And then, as you said, I went off the pill, quit cold turkey. Blah.
It's a
So that
band-aid
was kind of the
effect.
issue. Yeah. So there was definitely that part of, healing my hormones as well. But then as I mentioned earlier, I was eating a lot of chocolate, like a lot of processed sugar. And the reason why I was doing that is that I was feeling so much hatred towards myself.
Mhm.
And the chocolate
You're
was
looking
helping
for a
me to soothe
dopamine
down these
fix.
feelings. Exactly, exactly. It was helping me to feel good. And so I feel bad, I eat chocolate. I feel bad, I eat chocolate. I feel bad, I eat chocolate. And so it had an impact
Well,
on
you
my,
feel bad,
yeah.
you eat chocolate, then you feel bad about how you look, then you eat chocolate. It's like it's a cycle.
It didn't work, did it? But I didn't
No.
realize it at the time. And it took me, the funny thing is that I looked at everything else, at all other areas of my health. And then I had, practically given up and thinking, okay, I have a really healthy skincare regime. I eat healthily. I sleep 8, 10 hours a night. I am healthy, but still my skin is looking like crap. So what is it that I need to change? What is it that I still need to change after 2 years of, 3 years or whatever of intense struggling? And I realized that the last thing that I hadn't had a look at, even though it was the most important thing, is my addiction to processed sugar, right? And when I gave up, which was incredibly difficult, by the way, like if you stop eating sugar, like it's really difficult. It's in everything that
It's
we
a
that we
drug.
eat, that we buy. Exactly. It's a drug. And I had to give up on it. And everybody thought that I was stupid and that what I was doing didn't make any sense. And I couldn't share it anyway. I didn't want to share it because I felt so embarrassed. And took me years to absolutely completely heal my gut, heal my liver. And but the sugar was the answer, right? The sugar was the answer.
What are some foods that you were surprised that you had to give up when you realized how much sugar was in them? Because sugar's in everything.
Oh, it's in everything. Like anything that you don't make from scratch has sugar in it because it's a good preservative, right? So I can't have jam. I can't have a lot of bread from the bakery. And I spend hours looking at the tiny little ingredients on each single thing that I buy at the supermarkets. Because sugar, sucrose, dextrose, all of that stuff, like that's sugar. And I can't have it. And I can't have cane sugar. That's the thing of it. And the more it's been processed, the less I can have it. So ice cream yesterday, bad idea. Anything from the bakery, bad idea.
But you know what you're signing up for now. Like you know the consequences. So yeah. It's like
I
someone who's
know.
gluten free but still loves like certain breads. They're like, okay, I'll deal with it. Like, but I still want it.
Absolutely. But that's the weird thing. When I was giving up on sugar, so it was a really difficult process, mentally speaking. Like having to give up on that drug was really difficult. And I know it sounds silly that, oh, you're like having to give up on sugar. Like, oh, it's not like you have to drink, give up on alcohol. It was difficult for me anyway. But sometimes I would be like, oh my God, I've been so good for 3 days. I'll have a treat. I'll treat myself.
There should be
And then
AA for sugar addictions.
I know it should be. Or fish and chips or anything processed, or fast foods, whatever.
How did that affect your social life?
Oh my goodness. I didn't like to. I
Because
remember, yeah,
if you like to
yeah.
drink before you were ever drinking socially, I think alcohol has to go too, no?
Oh,
At least at the
absolutely. Yeah, I
beginning.
couldn't drink anymore. Yeah, I mean, I was never a big drinker. Drink? Yeah. I never really used to drink alcohol, so but it was definitely a big no-no. And the funny thing is, like I remember going to the restaurant with friends when I was at uni, and then having something that I thought was going to have sugar, but I couldn't control it. I was at the restaurant. I wasn't going to be able to bring my own stuff, and I could feel the pimples forming on my skin.
Really?
And I'm like, oh my God, and I so badly want to pop it and I want to know how bad it is, but I forgot to bring my concealer. Oh my God. And then sometimes I would go to the bathroom and pop it, and then I had to stay in there for 10 minutes to wait for the thing to stop
Oh my
erupting.
goodness. But
It
did
was
you
so
find, like,
embarrassing.
when I think about any of my friends, like, doing any sort of cleanse or avoiding dairy or gluten or sugar, anything, or even someone doing a dry January, I'm like, wow, I don't realize how much it affects your social life or how much we eat and drink those things until someone's stopping it. Like, what about like birthday parties? No cake, no cupcakes. Like, tell me some stories of how it affected you.
Mm. Well, I think, in the beginning, I didn't say anything because I felt so embarrassed about that skin issue, that health condition. And I had let that condition get really bad. So I thought it was my fault. And I remember, falling in love with my husband and, getting together with him. And he obviously saw that there was something on my face. And he was asking me questions. And I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going home now. And I was just completely shutting him off. So it affected me because there was something that was going on inside of me that I couldn't share with anybody. I didn't want to share because I didn't want to feel so vulnerable. I felt like I was already falling apart. So opening up to somebody was like, ugh. And when I was speaking to my mom on the phone, the first thing she said was, how's your skin today? Oh, I mean, thank
Um,
you, ma'am.
like, is that all we're ever going to talk about?
I know. And I just felt like this is something that's huge for me already, but I just want to forget about it. Anyway, so I didn't talk about it with anybody ever. Otherwise, I knew I was going to fall apart. And then as I was moving forward in my journey and I started to see this difference that, my diet, this change in my diet was making in my skin, I thought, well, I actually have to start being open about it, and it's taken me probably 6, 7 years to start being open about this. I can't have sugar. If I have
Really?
sugar, I'm going to have a breakout. And I'm just starting to do this with my husband now. Like that's how long it's taken me to heal this. And I told him just this morning, oh, I had ice cream. That's why I have, this pimple on my forehead because he looks at my skin and wants to know that I'm okay. And it's taken me this long to be able to be open about it. And I think it's that, I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of being weak. That's something that's really strong and it's there, right? So I don't want people to think that I'm weak or, yeah, dependent or I don't know. So yeah, it takes a while.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we talked about how it affected you socially. I know how acne affected me mentally, but how did it affect you mentally?
Oh, it broke me apart. I think it was an opportunity if we're going to look at this, in a positive, from a positive perspective. It's opened a lot of doors for me. And I had to go into these rooms and have a look at all of my stuff, all the bullying from high school, my parents' divorce, all of the reasons why I felt so ashamed of myself, all of the people that have rejected me or said something bad about me. And when you don't love yourself, those are things that that you keep inside of yourself and that keep on torturing you until you deal with them. And so acne was this opportunity. And it took me years to realize it, but it was an opportunity to heal my body and to look at how I wanted to treat my body and to learn what my body liked and didn't like, very simply put, but also to have a look at why I was the way I was. And I had to look at the crappy stuff about me. And that's self-love for me. That's, having that strength to look at all of the crappy stuff about yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm always lately I've been battling the idea of confidence versus self-esteem. And I've only recently realized those are two very different things. You can be very
Mm,
confident and have low self-esteem, you can have high self-esteem, but not be as confident because confident is very outward facing.
Mm.
I know when I had acne, wow, it tests your confidence. 'Cause it's like, it really tests whether or not you have real deep inner confidence and self-esteem, because if something like a skin issue is really gonna affect your confidence, how strong really is your confidence, you
Mm.
know? And I noticed that with me. And obviously, the prettier we feel, the more confidence we're gonna exude, but I don't know, did it test your confidence at all?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't look at people in the eye. I would avoid
No.
conversations, or, if my family wanted to talk to me, via Facebook Messenger or whatever with the video on, I would turn it off. Oh no, my internet is not so good right now. Sorry. I
No,
would
you're
make
good, you're good.
excuses, and it was I couldn't connect with people because I couldn't connect with myself, and couldn't I don't know. I felt like I was constantly wanting to hide. And so if I want to hide, then I can't connect with others, but they want to connect with me, but I can't spend all of my time hiding because then all of my anxiety comes up and I eat chocolate.
And it's a bad cycle, and it just goes to show how that trail continues, where you're not feeling confident, so you wanna hide, and then you don't really wanna connect with your family, so then you lose that connection piece, and it's like, it goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's, you know? And, like, when we think about it logically, it's like, okay, it's just a clogged pore, but wow, how much it can dwindle all of our life,
Mm.
like, how we can get so affected by something as small as that, but how much something as small can affect us emotionally, mentally, confidence wise, everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it really showed that I don't want to have problems. I don't want to be weak. I don't want people to know that sometimes I'm going through tough times. And, like tough times have happened to me since that as well. And, I've had a lot of crazy times in my life, but I don't want people to know that I'm falling apart. And I don't want them to know. So it tells me that I don't feel comfortable with other people. I don't know who to trust, for example. That really brings up a whole lot of issues, right? And I
Yeah,
guess it
like
gets
you're
better, but
digging up a big, big hole.
I know, but I spent years and decades trying to hide that about myself, trying to hide the fact that I hated everything about me and that I didn't feel comfortable with other people, and acne just brought everything up, to the surface. And as I was mentioning
Literally.
earlier, yeah, I know it really
It
was, and I had to deal
manifested
with it.
literally.
I know, and that's what self love is for me. I really I really think that self-love is having that ability to face yourself and realize that you're not going to die in the process. It's going to be incredibly difficult, but let's have this, difficult conversations. Let's tell somebody that you love that you're struggling with something, because chances are that they're struggling with something as well. And they don't feel that they can talk about it either. We're all struggling. We're all vulnerable. We all feel that nobody wants to listen to us complain. But what if we could have the space to talk about the stuff that's really hurting us, with somebody that we feel safe with, and not necessarily for them to fix our problems or tell us how to fix our problems, but just to be listened to. That's incredibly healing. And I think that that's part of what I want to do, just telling somebody, hey, this is something that I'm struggling with. And can you just listen to me for a bit without taking anything on, without trying to fix me? Just listen to me and I'll feel better.
Yeah.
And you can do the same in return.
At what point of this specific ebb in your life or journey did you finally feel like you were getting a handle of things and stuff in your life started to flow again and feel a little bit smooth sailing?
I think it was a very gradual process, but I remember looking at myself in the mirror one morning, which I used to do, for half an hour every morning, just,
Mhm.
looking at everything and trying to fix everything and popping the things and making it worse. And I remember looking at myself, that's something that I was forcing myself to do, just looking at myself in the mirror and like just looking at everything. And I remember one morning I thought, oh, actually, I don't hate myself anymore. And that was a really powerful moment for me. And I think the second thing is I was struggling with acne. I was trying to heal it. It was taking a long time. And I was falling in love with my husband, and I couldn't open up to him. And then, well, I had to, so we met in Australia. He's a Kiwi. I'm French. I had to go back to France, long story short. And then after 4 months, he came to Europe to be with me. And I thought, well, now I can't keep on shutting him off because you know,
And I can't
you know,
hide from you.
I
Yeah.
can't hide anymore from you. No, we're traveling together. We're living in this one big house together. I can't hide from you anymore. And I think that really forced me to connect with him, and to see if I could allow myself to be safe with him. And so those were the two big moments, I think, the moment in front of the mirror. And also when I finally realized that I don't need to be afraid of my boyfriend. It's okay to feel safe with him. And yeah, it all had to do with me.
And it's interesting though, we all have our insecurities because this is what it really comes down to is some insecurities. And being in a relationship with someone can amplify those. But it's also for anyone who really, really actually loves you, that's not what they see when they look at you. It's not a part of who you are. But when we're the person with the skin issue or
Mm,
with something, it's like we don't see that. Like we think that's all they see about us. And we feel that they're not gonna love us as much until this goes away, and everything
mm.
is so contingent on something. But I'm sure you quickly realized that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he saw everything else about me. Like, he saw that that was an issue for me, but I think he never realized how big of an issue it was for me because I didn't talk about it,
Yeah,
which made it
that
worse.
helps.
Yeah. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot. I can't remember.
Don't worry. When you look back at everything you went through with this journey, obviously you say it took a lot of time. For anyone who's going through that journey right now of skin issues and insecurity and self-esteem and confidence and almost being afraid to look into the mirror, if someone was giving you advice back then that would have sped things up a bit, what advice would you give that person?
Um, Maybe it's going to take time, but the healing is going to happen for you. Just keep moving through the process. I think I was so desperate for it to happen now. And that's another pattern in my life. I'm desperate for things to happen now. And if they don't happen now, all sorts of things come up for me. But, having the faith to trust the process and to trust that what you want is coming for you. What you want will be given to you. And I think, if I had been able to trust and to have faith in myself, in my body, in the goodness of the universe, then I would have felt a lot better. And I think it's true for everybody. And maybe you don't have any skin issues, if you listen to this podcast and you're like, oh, this doesn't resonate with me at all. But, maybe you have weight issues or, I think this is huge as well. Like
Anything
weight
that you're
issues
not
are
happy
huge.
about
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. Big
Yeah.
ears, big nose.
Seriously, anything. We all have something. And it's
Mm,
funny, someone could look at us and think we're one of the most beautiful people they've ever seen. And oftentimes that has nothing to do with looks. It doesn't matter how this color of our skin or the color of our hair or whatever. A lot of times it's the energy exuding out of you. I know, like, I've met people where at first glance, I'm like, yeah, they're good looking. They're not the most beautiful person I saw. And as I started talking to them and as I started getting to know them, by the end of the meeting, I'm like, wow, they're a beautiful person. They get better looking in front of your eyes because of the energy they exude. And again, I've seen it with my own two eyes before. So it's something that I'm always trying to be mindful of, where it's like, it's not about like the actual looks. It's about, yeah, the energy that you're exuding at all times.
mm. Yeah, I think, when we struggle with a lack of self love, we try to prove to others that we're enough because we don't think that we're enough. And
I
so we
don't know
kind of look
anything
for that
about that
validation.
at all.
No, neither do I. Neither do I. And so, we kind of just, we're projecting that, we wear that mask and, it's in front of society and we're like, love me, look, I'm enough. Look, love me, give me something that I need, give me validation, right? And then it's actually, you're broken inside. So again, it's about self-love. It's about, fixing what's broken inside of you, which is incredibly difficult to do. And not a lot of people want to do it, but I think it's necessary anyway. And you're going to have to do it at some point. So do it now. Very
Oh
practical
my god,
perspective on life.
I feel like you just played a recording of myself. Love me, validate me, give me a compliment. I'm like, I've been doing that a lot lately, and it's only the last couple of days where, again, I've had a couple of days to sit by myself and think, and I'm like, holy crap, I really got to work on that. I need to
And
stop
we all
needing the
do. We all
validation.
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's not going to get solved tonight, but it will
But what if it
eventually.
could? What if it could?
Maybe it
Like
could.
I
It
think,
probably
we
is
look at
just a
these issues.
decision, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. We look at all of these things and we look at social media and we do research on the internet and we're like, oh, I need to start meditating. Oh, I need to start doing yoga. I need to eat more healthily. And it's like this whole thing that you have to change in order to feel better. But what if you could feel good about yourself right now? Wait, if you don't even think that's possible right now, what if you could just sit with yourself and sit with those crazy thoughts that are going on in your mind and just I think we can call it meditation, I suppose. We can also call it, closing your eyes and spending time with yourself. Just being with yourself, being with who you are and realizing that you can still reach that space of I'm okay anyway. That stuff is going to be resolved anyway at some point. It doesn't matter how long it takes, but I can still feel okay right now. It doesn't have to be this huge process. It feels like it's a lot of work, right? I have to work on my issues. I don't know how to do it. I have to hire a coach. I have to do a retreat. I have to do
Yeah.
workshops. I have to start meditating. But, what if that wasn't the case? What if I was allowed to feel good about myself? Well, okay, let's how it okay about myself right now anyway.
So
That's
true.
that's my yeah. That's what I want for us to think. It doesn't have to take a lot of work. We don't have to do a lot of inner work or journaling or whatever you're into.
Hmm.
What if
Yeah. What if? Exactly. Okay. Last question for you, Celine. When you look back at this specific journey or any kind of ebb that you've had in your life and all of the tough times it's brought you, um, how when you think about present day, how did going through all of that make you glow in the end? For you, literally.
when the thing is finally over, and that I've truly dealt with every aspect of it, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I realize that I'm glad these things have happened. I'm glad that my parents have divorced. They weren't happy. I'm glad that I had to struggle with hundreds of pimples on my skin. I'm glad that it happened because if it hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have dealt with my stuff. I would still be insecure. I would still be shy. I would still look for validation. I would still eat a lot of chocolate every single night in the secret of my bedroom. I would probably not be married to somebody who's fantastic because I wouldn't have let him in. So I'm glad, like that stuff was really, really bloody hard. And I tasted everything that I was. But then I'm glad because I know who I am now and I know my weaknesses and I know myself and I know when somebody says something that triggers me, I know how to deal with it anymore. I don't have to bury it because I'm not strong enough. I know that I'm strong enough. So yeah, yeah. It's going to happen anyway, whether you like it or not. We're here to grow and in the end, I think anyway. So I think that, when we talk about self-development, a lot of the work that we do is about dealing with our issues so that stuff doesn't happen anymore, so that we don't have to manifest it anymore, right? But I think that those things happen whether we like it or not, because we're here to grow and we're here to learn how to be balanced, whatever comes our way. I think that that's a more powerful lesson than doing your self development work and dealing on your stuff so that bad shit doesn't happen to you anymore.
Well, I mean, life would be pretty boring if it was just smooth sailing and
Mm,
constant. And we need those contrasts in our life to appreciate the ebbs and appreciate when it's flowing. And when it's the same thing with rain and shine. You don't want all of one. I don't think so. Not most people do. And the nice thing about going through all of that, like you said, you wouldn't have half the amount of beautiful things in your life if you didn't go through those things. And you definitely wouldn't have any joy or gratefulness for them without going through the struggles. Um, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. We go through so much and we never think anyone else is going through it, but as you know, so many people in this world has had skin issues and yeah, it takes a lot out of you and it takes a lot of self-growth to finally build yourself up from that as well.
mm. Yeah, I think, we also don't really think that those things are problems, like when I say I had acne, like that's
Some
like,
people may
a
laugh
whole
and it's
world
like,
of suffering. And
"No."
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, I know
I
it
suffered so
broke
much.
me. Exactly. And we're like first world problems, but actually not really, like, yes, I have a beautiful roof over my head and I have delicious food to eat every day and I am loved and I have delightful friends and I have everything that I need, right? I'm not in a survival mode anymore, but crap happens to all of us, and it's going to test you to your limits. It's going to test you and it's going to show you who you truly are. And then, I think what really makes a difference is how you choose to react to it. Do you choose to fold and just decide that you're a victim and, you know, sink into a whole world of depression, anxiety? Or do you, and I don't know, do drugs or whatever? Or do you
Yeah.
choose to deal with it? And yeah, you know,
Well, and obviously you dealt with it, clearly.
yeah, I mean, it makes me sound good. It makes me feel good about it. I
Yeah, of
dealt with it, but it also,
course.
I was also addicted to sugar.
But this is not gonna be the
Yeah.
last thing you have to deal with either, but now I find anything that you go through, you start building those resiliency muscles and those strength muscles that whatever else comes your way, that you already know how to get through it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, with every challenge that comes my way, like it.
Where are you? I would just message you to see if you were coming back.
I
Um,
am back.
we're just about to finish anyway, so we can finish it up for a minute right now.
I know it. Yeah. Thank you for waiting.
Oh my god, of course. It happens on my end sometimes too. It's the nature of technology. I'm sure Mercury retrograde is in process as always.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always the fault of Mercury. Yeah.
So my last question for you, I feel like you've given a lot of great advice anyways, but any last words of advice? And then please plug where people can find you if they want to connect further.
Just trust yourself. As simple as that sounds. And you guys can find me at my website if you like, mydawninglight.com. So mydawninglight.com. It's all about finding that inner light inside of you and realizing that you are perfect anyway. And that was another key moment that I didn't share, but you can find more on the homepage of my website. Anyway, so you can talk to me there. And yeah, I can't wait to get to know you and see what I can help you with.
Celine, thank you so much for all of the advice. And your story reminds me that, again, whatever you are going through, there is someone out there that has gone through the same thing and has triumphed. And it's worth hearing their story and how. So, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.